Football season is never truly over, no matter what level you're watching, whether it's the NFL, whether it's college football, high school, you name it. It seems to be that now this is a full year sport, year-round sport. And now we're adding new professional leagues to that agenda as well. So the USFL just had their draft this past Tuesday and Wednesday, 22nd and 23rd. And I'm a little excited, but then again, football is always exciting for me. So I can't really say that I'm just like everybody else, but I think that this is a league that could be potentially exciting. There was some excitement when the AAF was around, when the XFL was also around before that got canceled. And now the USFL is the latest spring or summer edition of what we see as professional football. Roster rankings, the team rankings, if you will. We'll start from 8 and go all the way to 1 and kind of just talk about the notable players. We'll go through everybody and talk about the coaches. Coming in at number 8, the Houston Gamblers, led by Kevin Sumlin, former Arizona head coach, and actually was a Houston offensive coordinator at one point. Returns to Houston, led by quarterback Clayton Thorson out of Northwestern. And there's a couple of nice pieces. The cornerbacks will be fun to watch. Jamar Summers from UConn and Howard Wilson, formerly of Houston, as well. I think that those two are going to be two of the best in this league. Wilson has a lot of length to him, so it's going to be exciting to watch what he can do. Azim Victor is a linebacker to pay attention to as well. It's just a matter of can the offense really do anything with what they have. Thorson's solid, but I don't know how well he can do and how high he can go. Number 7, the Michigan Panthers, led by Jeff Fisher, former Tennessee Titans head coach, had some rumors going to USC. They got the first overall pick. They took Shea Patterson, formerly of Michigan and Ole Miss. They also snagged Paxton Lynch out of Memphis. Those are two solid quarterbacks with some potential. I just don't know if they're going to be as consistent. You got some speed with Quincy Adebayo and Jeff Badet at wide receiver. Those are two great speed options, if you will, and just a matter of can they get the ball in their hands? Can they get them downfield to make explosive plays? At running back, they're pretty solid. Stevie Scott and Reggie Corbin, two former Big Ten running backs, will be two talented options for them. If anything, they'll be able to run the ball. And then Joey Magnifico at tight end is another solid option, too. At number 6, we have the Philadelphia Stars, led by Bart Andrews. Byron Scott is the quarterback there. Case Cookis is the backup. The defense is going to be fun to watch. Jerome Johnson was super underrated at Indiana, and I think that he'll be one of the better players on the defensive side of the ball. Mazzy Wilkins from USF is another guy, and Tavon Coney from Notre Dame will be two other guys to definitely watch. The offense has some pieces. Wide receiver Brennan Eagles can be solid, and tight end Bug Howard is another big play threat that I think people will definitely have to pay attention to. Matt Colburn from Wake Forest was solid with the Demon Deacons and gives the Stars a nice rushing attack. At number 5, we have the New Jersey Generals, Mike Riley, who has now been in 3 for 3 in leagues that are the spring/summer leagues, trying to be the alternate or the minor league teams for the NFL, if you will. He coached the Seattle Dragons in 2020, and he was with San Antonio Commanders in 2019. The Dragons being from the XFL and San Antonio Commanders from the AAF. His quarterback is Ben Holmes. His backup is an interesting option in DeAndre Johnson, the former Florida State / FAU / Tennessee State quarterback is super athletic, and they've got a bunch of options on the offensive side of the ball. Wide receiver Cavante Turpin was one of the most explosive players when he was at TCU, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of plays they dial up for him. Mike Weber and Trey Williams are two great blasts from the past, if you will. Weber being from Ohio State and Trey Williams being from Texas A&M. On the defense side of the ball, two linebackers to watch, Chris Orr and DeJuan Hines. Orr coming out of Wisconsin was super underrated when he was there, and Hines had a monster year his final season with the Cougars. Those are going to be the leaders of that defense. Number 4, the Pittsburgh Maulers. While their uniforms don't really sit well with me, this is going to be a very fun team to watch, if you ask my opinion. Kirby Wilson, who coached 7 teams in the NFL, he is leading this team, led by quarterback Kyle Lauletta out of Richmond. And the backup is Josh Love of San Jose State, a name that people probably remember if you're deep into college football. You'll definitely remember that name. Wide receivers are super talented. You have Jeffrey Thomas, who at one point people thought was going to be an absolute monster at Miami. He was still pretty good. He just never lived up to that. Brandon Mack is a great jump ball receiver. And then you have Trey Walker, also out of San Jose State, who's going to be solid. Defensive side of the ball is going to be a question mark, but they do have a couple of nice pieces to lead the front seven, if you will. And number three, New Orleans Breakers. Larry Fedora is the head coach there. He was formerly the Baylor offensive coordinator in 2020. He also led North Carolina as the head coach from 2012 to 2018. I think this offense is going to be one of, if not the best in this league. I think that they're going to be able to throw the ball really well. Kyle Sloter is the quarterback there, and he has a backup in Zach Smith, who was very good for Tulsa. I think that he turned that Tulsa program into a good team and brought them to the AAC championship against Cincinnati. And then you look at the wide receivers. You have Johnny Dixon from Ohio State, who was really underrated with the Buckeyes. Jonathan Adams out of Arkansas State is a nightmare to cover one-on-one. Just ask Kansas State. I mean, if you go back and watch that Kansas State game, Jonathan Adams was putting people in body bags. He was doing over the top one hand catches, you name it. He was just absolutely killing it. And then when you're done worried about those two, Taiwan Taylor out of Western Kentucky, who was one of the best receivers when he was with the Hilltoppers. Them and Louisiana Tech went back and forth and had some good battles back when Taylor was playing. And I think that this is going to be a trio that is going to give secondaries in this league a ton of trouble. You also throw in Sal Cannella. He's a big body tight end. Again, this passing attack is going to be a nightmare to stop, if you ask me. Number two, Skip Holtz leads the Birmingham Stallions. He's the former Louisiana Tech head coach, and he just got let go. That was kind of controversial, but his offense is led by FIU quarterback Alex McGuff, and the backup is another Conference USA player, Louisiana Tech quarterback Jamar Davis Smith. So a little Conference USA action going there. And I think this is a super underrated team still, even though I have them at number two. I think that this is really underrated because of the guys that played. They were underrated in college. You look at a guy like Victor Bolden from Oregon State. Scooby Wright was one of the craziest players in college football. If you go back and look at his time at Arizona, he put up monster numbers year in and year out. And you look at his best year is absolutely bonkers. If you go back and look at his stats from that year, I think that you're going to see your eyes widen a little bit. The running backs, Tony Brooks James, kind of a lightly used running back out of Oregon. Didn't really get a ton of touches, if you will, or at least as many as he probably wanted. And then CJ Marable out of Coastal Carolina was a part of that run and current run, really, at Coastal Carolina has been having. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Terrell Hanks is a player that we don't really talk about that much, or we didn't when he was in college, but he is out of New Mexico State, like I said, and he is a tackling machine, so he's going to lead the defense. Very underrated, like I said. Oh, and then finally, Lorenzo Burns. Lorenzo Burns doesn't get enough credit for what he did at Arizona. He was during the time, not the same as Scooby Wright, but he was shutting people down by himself. He had no real help in terms of safety over the top or just anybody to help him. He just shut people down on his own. And because Arizona was so bad, he just didn't get the recognition that he deserved. Finally, at number one, we have the Tampa Bay Bandits. Todd Haley, the former Browns offensive coordinator, got the former former star of one of the previous leagues in Jordan Ta'amu out of Ole Miss. Brady White is the backup quarterback from Memphis. It's nice to see Brady surface again. Brady was solid for the Tigers when he was there, but Jordan Ta'amu is a guy who thrived for St. Louis, and now with that league shutting down, it was really a bummer because it seemed like he was starting to hit his stride, and maybe if this league sticks around long enough, he can be a guy that can continue to work on that success, to build on that success. This team is like I said, they're number one, and it's easy to see why. Tomo and White will be the quarterbacks. Former wide receiver slash kind of a tight end, Derek Dillon, is going to be a big target. Former LSU Tiger. John Franklin has speed for days. So if you get him in space, you're going to be giving teams a lot of headaches. Running backs are BJ Emmons out of FAU, and then Juwan Washington, super, super underrated out of San Diego State. Both are going to be very tough runners, and they'll get the job done for sure. Flipping over to the defensive side of the ball, Obi Melifanu, I thought he'd have a better career in the NFL. I think that he just didn't find the right system, and now he finds himself in the USFL. But I think that he will get a chance to show why he was one of the more exciting options at the safety position coming out of UConn. One of the players that's going to be really interesting to watch is Makai Brown. You'll remember him from kind of through the fit on the sideline for Alabama when they're in the national championship game. He got a penalty and whatnot. So he's a super talented player, but he's going to be a player you definitely need to watch, see if he can kind of redeem himself and get something going here. But that's a super athletic linebacker for the Bandits, and it's going to be exciting to see what they're capable of doing, how they're able to perform in this brand new league. I don't know who really is going to be good. This is just my predictions based off of what I've watched from the AAF, the XFL, their college careers. It's hard to know who, like I said, is going to be good, who's going to be dominant, but it's just fun to go back and look at some of these old college players that used to thrill us on Saturdays, and now they're playing in a summer league. So, USFL is here, and it's going to be interesting to see who is really good, who struggles, and really just what this league is all about. And I'm interested to see what you guys think as well. So, leave your predictions or whatever you think down in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed as usual. USFL, maybe not the NFL that we are accustomed to seeing. It's probably not college football, but the fact that they're doing it in the summer gives them plenty of intrigue, especially during a time when there's going to be really outside of the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. We're trying to get to the season, the preseason, if you will, and it still gives a lot of these players time to make an impact and potentially vault this season into potentially an NFL career.